The number one most asked question online when it comes to VA claims is what VA claims can they not prove? Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that is some very weird wording. It's also just a big question as to why that would be the thing people are searching the most of, and by a long shot, too. So we're going to dig into that, and we're going to understand a couple things that we need to unpack around that question and why it probably is such a popular search. But before we do that, I want you to know, if you're new here, my name is Lucas Simner. I'm the CEO and founder of Vetclaims.ai. I'm also a Purple Heart recipient, and I am a former paratrooper. I built a couple big companies in the past, and this, Vetclaims.ai, well, we're the fastest growing VA claim service company in the world. By the end of this video, what we're going to do, right, we're going to make sure that you understand what claims really can't be proven, if there are any, dig into why this is a question in the first place, and why it's so popular online, and then we're going to dig into what you need to know so that this isn't a concern of yours. Now, like I said, so let's dig in. I'm going to start out by saying that there's no need to lie to the VA, nor should you ever. That's fraud, and fraud is bad, okay? Unless you are a former or current sitting member of Congress. So why do we think this is the most asked question? Well, because veterans struggle to get ratings for the disabilities they actually do have. You actually have something you can't get rated for. Well, what can I get for something they can't test for? And that is a logical conclusion. Not one that I would recommend because, like I said earlier, fraud is bad unless you're in Congress. Used to be in Congress. They get away with a lot too. But there's likely hope that one of the injuries that they have is on this list of things that the VA can't quote unquote prove. Now, is there anything the VA can't prove? There is. There's a couple things, and we'll get into what those are, but they're not the golden ticket you might think. Regardless of the reason, what really matters here when we dig in further is the quality of the question that we're asking. And that's a lesson that I hope to impart to you, whether it be in business, within VA claims, or anything you do in life. Well, there is such a thing as a stupid question, but in general, there's a big difference between a good question and a bad question. How you word it and what you're actually asking. Do you know enough to ask the right question? Now, in this case, with this being so popular of a search, I'm just going to go ahead and say that no, the community in general does not know enough to ask the right question here. The right question is, what VA claims are subjective in nature? Now, let's break down what we mean by subjective versus an objective claim. An objective claim is not a matter of opinion. It's visible or easily proven via a test. I say I have something going on in my knee. They can x-ray that knee and they can see if that thing is there or not. Think of cancer. They can do a blood test. Think of anything that can be easily proven or easily verified. Now, a subjective claim is not something that can be imaged or specifically tested. It's not easily verified or visible, and it's typically pretty open to interpretation. Now, some examples of objective claims would be amputations, arthritis, herniated discs, and even hemorrhoids. That is right. If you claim hemorrhoids, you can get yourself a second trip to the doctor who loves to do the duck walks. They even call in the guy from MEPS to make sure he's the one. Now, what are some subjective claims? Well, PTSD, migraines, painful range of motion, and even tinnitus. And I know tinnitus is a hot one, and it's probably going to get some comments on this. But let's go further. Are these subjective claims that we just talked about a magical way to increase your rating? Maybe, if you do the right things. Subjective claims being a shortcut to increase your rating, it's a tricky question, but they definitely can be. But in practice, these are also the claims that most veterans struggle the most with. Something being subjective is a huge benefit to the veteran, or at least it should be, given the benefit of the doubt doctrine that the VA has. Case precedents set at VA rarely follows their own rules. And we all know this. And if you're new to the VA claim world, or if you work at the VA and you want to get mad at this, go right ahead. Truth be told, over thousands of claims that we have seen, the VA rarely follows their own rules. And when they do, it's not uniformly. It is not within any sort of pattern or rationale. It's just very hit or miss. If you want to know more about the benefit of the doubt doctrine, check out the video that I made last week talking about how the Supreme Court, well, just had a massive impact on that benefit of the doubt doctrine and what it means for veterans. But in general, the benefit of the doubt doctrine is supposed to mean that when evidence isn't equipoise or equal, the claim should be granted towards the veteran. So if you say, hey, I've got migraines, when the VA is like, they don't have any evidence and you do, so therefore it's 1-to-1, or even if they say your lay statement doesn't really amount to much, it's still 0-to-0. So you should get the claim. Is that how it works in practice? Absolutely not. Even though they're not supposed to, they will count a lack of medical records or a lack of documentation prior to this as evidence against you, even though they shouldn't be able to, but they do. Subjective claims aren't a golden ticket, but they can work in your favor if you do your homework. In order for these types of claims to be beneficial to your rating, you need to know these three things. You need to know how they're evaluated in the schedule ratings. You need to know the language that is used to determine the level of the ratings. So if there's a 10, a 30, and a 50% rating, you need to understand what language is used to differentiate between those things. And then third and finally, you need to understand the questions that are listed in the DBQ for that rating. Now, what's the DBQ? It's a disability questionnaire, and ultimately disability benefit questionnaire. And ultimately, it's the exam. It's what check boxes are used to assess not only if you have the disability, but to what level you do have the symptoms of it and how it affects you. Now, here at Vetclaims.ai, we ensure that every veteran has this research prepped and delivered to them before we even get to our one-on-one CMP exam preparation. patient. This ensures that the veteran knows what they're walking into in the CMP and how to talk about their conditions and symptoms in a way that the VA will actually understand and rate. Whether you're doing this through Vetclaims.ai or doing it on your own, doing your homework is critical to making these subjective claims count towards your rating. Let's dig into a real-life example here. Migraines. It's one of everybody's favorite things to talk about. Migraines are a perfect example of a subjective rating. There's no singular test the VA can do. There's not even a battery of tests the VA can really do. And they can be caused by a lot of things. Sleep apnea, sinus issues, packed act exposures, deviated septums, TMJ, you name it. TBI is a big one. Migraines can be caused by many, many things. They can be secondary to many, many things. How do you make it count for you? Well, you need medical etiology. You need something linking migraines to your service, whether it's secondary to a service-connected injury, an exposure, or direct result from ear damage, explosions, whatever, what have you in service. So you have to establish how you're going to service connect the migraines. But once you've got that, now we're into where the subjective part of this plays a big role. Let's say I'm now veteran 1. I'm Timmy Two Teeth. Now, Timmy Two Teeth comes into the CMP exam and he says, hey doc, I get these migraines a couple times a month. They're pretty bad. They suck. They're really painful. Sometimes I have to lay down. Timmy Two Teeth just got a 0% to 10% rating. If the rater was really good, 0% most likely. Now, I'm Jimmy. I'm veteran number 2. Now, Jimmy walks in and he says, hey doc, I've got these migraines. They happen, 2 to 3 times a week sometimes, but when they do happen, they're prostrating in nature. I have to lay down in a dark, quiet room until they go away. It's caused me to miss work. It's caused trouble for me at work. It's a whole mess. It affects every part of my life. Do you know what Jimmy just got? Jimmy just got a 30% to a 50% rating. Most likely a 50% rating. Now, why is that? If you go back and rewatch what I just said, the two veterans are saying damn near the same thing, just in different ways. Bad migraines multiple times a month. Sometimes you have to lay down. Prostrating means lay down. One gave the proper details. Yeah, it affects my work. Yeah, I have to lay in a dark, quiet room. The other veteran 1, left a lot of things to be assumed. This is where a subjective claim can bite you square in the ass. If you are not detailed, if you do not do your homework, if you do not do your research and understand how to talk about your symptoms and your disabilities in a way that the VA understands, you're not going to get the rating you deserve and you're going to be left frustrated like most veterans are. That's why we exist here at Vetclaims.ai to ensure the veterans get through this process the first time they need to and don't have to deal with it again. But if you're doing this on your own, which more power to you, you need to understand this regardless of who you're going through. Even going through Vetclaims.ai, no one can do a CMP exam for you. You have to. And the companies that will shill out to DBQ doctors, the VA doesn't look at them any better either. That's a whole nother video that I can make, but the VA has the right to retract them because they don't think that examiners outside of the VA can do them to the proper extent, which is fair because there's no way those docs get to review your records accurately. The example I just provided you with shows how having the right team in your corner or doing your own research can make the world of difference when it comes to you getting the rating that you deserve. Now, we're not done quite yet, but if this video has added value to you or you think it would add value to other veterans, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe down below because we're going to keep making the best videos about the truth in VA claims. Back to it. No matter how much you do know, dealing with the VA will be frustrating, but being equipped with the right knowledge can make it less stressful. It's like driving down an icy road. If it's your first time doing it, it can be stressful. You can be white-knuckling that wheel the whole way. But what you need to realize is that with the right knowledge and the right research and putting effort into this, because it is ultimately a big part of your life, we're talking potentially millions of dollars over the course of your life. It's not something to be taken lightly here. Doing this right, having that research, or having a team with the experience beside you throughout the process can take the stress out of it. It doesn't inherently make it any easier, but it does make it so you at least understand what's going on and why the corrections that are happening are, and why the car is going all over the place. That's about as good of an analogy that I can give you for that. But you now know that there are claims that the VA can't prove. These can be the claims that you do win big with, or the ones that you constantly get stuck not getting the rating you deserve with. So, hammer it one more time, do your research, or go to Vetclaims.ai. That being said, there is a variable we didn't address just yet, and that is the CMP examiner. Now, not all CMP examiners are created equal. Not all of them are bad. Some of them are great. We've heard about them. We've met some of them. But that being said, the one thing all CMP examiners do have in common is they all work for a company that was the lowest bidder on a government contract. It's 50-50, if not worse odds, that your CMP exam will be botched. And even if it's not botched, they might not care. They might not ask the questions on the DBQ. They might skip over it. Or our favorite and the most frequent thing that we see here is that the CMP examiner will have about 13 different disabilities to examine you for, and it's supposed to take from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., but you show up at 8 a.m. and you're out of there by 8:45. So that's probably the most common thing, is they just check the box and you don't know if that's in your favor or not. What do you do if you do have a bad CMP exam, especially on one of these subjective claims where it's not something that the x-ray makes all the difference? Well, there is a number to call. So you need to document document this issue. You need to write down what happened when you were in. If you can, take a picture inside, outside of the exam, before you go in, after you go in. That way you have some sort of timestamp. No, you don't need proof, and no, the VA is not going to ask you for pictures or timestamps. But is it helpful? Hell yeah, it's helpful. You can show how dumb they are, and you can ensure that that CMP examiner doesn't screw over any other veterans. So what you do is you document, per the VA's own language, you document issues in memorandum for record, but you also need to contact the VA at 1-800-827-1000. But you need to do that. Tell them that you had a bad CMP exam for whatever reason it was bad, and don't just say that because you don't like the doctor. But like if they didn't ask questions, weren't thorough, didn't follow the DBQ at all, or just completely skipped over disabilities, you don't want to wait 6 months to find out that you got hosed. Call that number and request a new exam, and do this within 24 hours of that exam, okay? It's not going to be a long time that you have to stay on the phone with the VA. It's a pretty simple, quick process. All that being said, with thorough preparation, you do minimize the risk and maximize the potential of things going your way. You can't control much about the CMP examiner, but you can come in with a note card. There's no rule against that. You can know how to describe your symptoms. You can have a log of your migraines. You can have a log of panic attacks. Whatever the symptom or condition is, there's no rule against you having notes going into these exams and doing that. You need to be your biggest advocate throughout this whole process. And yes, Vetclaims.ai, whether you work with us or not, we are here for you. We're here to support you throughout the process, and we're here to make videos like this and hopefully add a bunch of knowledge that helps you get the rating you deserve so that you can get focused on your next mission in life.